You are listening to 95.7 FM WELT, Fort Wayne, Radioactive. The opinions and views expressed in the show are those of the hosts and guests only. They do not represent those of FreeThought Fort Wayne, WELT, or any other organization. Welcome to the Hoosier Humanist Hour, where we explore science, religion, culture, ethics, and community from the humanist perspective. Join us as we discuss those topics and more, free from the ideologies of religion and superstition.
It's that time again. It's the Hoosier Humanist Hour. Thank you for joining us for 1 hour of some of the most interesting topics we hope you'll hear tonight on this radio station. We are brought to you by members of the FreeThought Fort Wayne group here in Fort Wayne. Check us out on Facebook. I can't remember where you go to find it, but you'll find it if you look for it. I'm here. My name is Dee. I'm here with Christopher and Andrew. And right off the bat, Christopher was telling us about something interesting that he was thinking about, and we dubbed it Nipplegate. So, Chris, fill us in on Nipplegate.
Yeah. So I think this is one of the topics that's been coming up recently as part of this general trend that the United States is trying to move in, I think, as a whole, which is towards a society that treats more things equally, regardless of their race, regardless of their sexual orientation, and regardless of their gender. So I believe that's kind of spawned a number of these different movements that we've been seeing in the U.S. lately. And the latest one in particular that I've had brought to my attention was Free the Nipple campaign. And this is a movement that's kind of spurred or brought about by women predominantly who think that it should be okay for them to walk around topless just as it's okay for a guy to walk around topless. And so it's kind of spurred this discussion because there are certain places and certain times that that people can do this and have that level of equality. But predominantly, it's kind of thought or considered that women really should remain covered up as far as at least their nipples are concerned. And so that's really spurred this whole debate about, well, is that exactly fair, or is that being sexist and controlling or something like that? So there we go.
That's really interesting. Well, there's obviously 3 guys here on this show, so I think we're probably all possibly a little inclined to go with the it's great to be topless if you want to be topless, right?
Right.
I guess.
I don't know. Yeah. I personally want to cover up, and there are some women out there probably going to get in trouble for this, but that should remain covered up. So I mean, again, if it's normalized and everything, and we wouldn't notice a difference. So why not?
Well, what's the history of this whole covering up your boobs thing? Because I know in a lot of tribal places they don't necessarily do that, right?
It's really hot in Africa.
Okay.
and they normally have darker skin tone that can be exposed to sunlight longer, and harsher conditions. They don't necessarily, they don't have as many clothing items or options as we do over here.
But if somebody wants to go without a shirt and a bra, just go out to the mall and walk around and go shopping, go about their day, and it's a woman and she has no clothing on the top half of her body, should that be okay? I'm assuming that if somebody does that now, a police officer is going to arrest them, right, for indecent exposure? Is that?
Well,
I have no idea.
It depends on the place, because your example of the mall, it's private property and no shirt, no shoes, no service, basically.
Yeah, but you're skirting the point, man.
No, I mean, if you're out in a public space, I mean, it also depends on the laws of the land as far as indecency laws and things like that, because you can't just walk around with your junk out.
Yeah, but like you could like not have a glove on or have a dress that's a little too high, a little above your ankles. Does the mall have a right to say you need to get a lower dress or something like that, or cover your hands in the mall? Like,
no, they have a minimum. Most businesses and places, most private property have a minimum set standard of you need this much clothing to be in here. Like, you don't usually see people walking around in bikinis in the mall, even though that would be, covering up everything technically, but it's still considered indecent and inappropriate.
Yeah, but 100 years ago it was indecent to show your ankles. Right? I mean, something like that. Like our ideas now of what's decent and not decent are remarkably different than they were 100 years ago. Would you agree with me on that?
Well, yeah. And
so how far can we go with it? Like, will there be a point where we can walk around naked and nobody will think anything different about it?
Possibly.
That's part of the core. Yeah, that's I think the core of the conversation is really how far down the rabbit hole does this whole thing go?
I like this conversation. How far does it go?
Because honestly, with me, it kind of stops when it starts becoming sexual. That's where it stops with me.
Okay, well, have you seen like go on Craigslist and go to casual encounters and just peruse a little bit? Like, what's considered sexual is like all over the board, man.
Right.
Balloons and beards. I mean, just you name it.
Right. So that kind of gets at what's really going to be the baseline for most people. All right. And just telling you right now, if you try to look out there and find a study that reports on how attractive a guy is to a girl, assuming both are straight, and how attractive a male appears to a woman, is not really determined at all by whether the woman can see his nipples or not. That has no baseline for attraction. It doesn't matter.
But it does. Yeah. Does for men though.
You watch Magic Mike. The women are not watching Magic Mike's nipples. They're watching his abs and his pecs and his arms. They're not watching the nipples. That's ridiculous. Whereas if you think about a guy at a strip joint, he's probably staring at the nipples. Okay. It's a pretty straightforward equation.
So you're all the way up to do whatever you want but cover the nipple.
Yeah. That's kind of the place I'm at, and that's because the nipple is inherently arousing for straight males when seen on a female.
Inherently though, like
inherently,
like, are you saying that this is a chemical reaction that takes place when we see a nipple?
Right. It's definitely genetically based.
Yeah, it's definitely a biological reaction.
Yep.
It's like it's evolution, essentially.
It is.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So back to the original argument I was making. 100 years ago, people thought different things were sexy, right?
Right.
So, and then also too, some of these tribal places, the men are still aroused by looking at the women's bare breasts.
Yep.
So that has not stopped in those environments.
In some, but that's the thing, is that there's definitely significant cultural influence to it. Because our culture has overridden a lot of genetic predispositions, right? So absolutely, I could see humans reaching the point in the future where we can override that. It's just we are a long ways from it right now.
We are a long ways from it, you're right.
So even though I have hope for the future, that we can reach a day and age where we don't lose our minds when seeing female nipples. It's just that day is not today, nor in the next 50 years.
Yeah, it's a long ways away.
So,
That's really where our evolution is happening right now, is it not? It's in our mind. The concepts we like. Would you say that the idea of abolishing slavery was an evolutionary step forward?
well, it was, because it certainly wasn't biblical.
Well, right. Outside of
Right.
the Bible, but we do seem to be becoming more moral over time, I would say.
Yes. Tossing the cross in the waste bin is a great first step.
Yes, I would agree with you on that. So I'm all for like the all nude mall. Go to the mall, all nude. We'll get over it. You guys are at thong and cover the nipple.
But I guess part of my thing is relating it to the hygiene factor. You know, you have to mention hygiene, and when you're considering orifices that are inherently disgusting in the first place, it'd be best to have those covered up. You know, for instance, if you have a female and she's lactating, I'd rather her not just be dripping from her boobs as she's walking along the aisles at the mall.
Right.
You know, and that does happen on occasion. I mean, obviously, men can occasionally have that issue too, but I agree that they should be wearing shirts during that time as well. So I just see it as a hygiene issue at that point.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. You've almost convinced me, guys.
But I mean, I absolutely understand the viewpoint of maybe certain feminist groups and such who definitely want to enjoy, you know, the draft, so to speak, and let the girls out to play. It's just I think that we're a long ways from reaching the point that we're ready for that.
What do you think comes first? We're ready for it, or the legislation changes, or the social norms change, or maybe it's all one and the same, right?
Well, the social norms definitely have to come first.
Yeah.
If people accept it, then change can come, societal wise, law wise, and then it'll just be normalized. You see, like looking back in history, you see the same thing happen over and over again. Like the most recent thing I can think of would be, like the gay issue, like gay marriage and stuff like that. That used to be considered immoral, wrong, and now it's become normalized. It started it started off with societal stuff first, and then progressed from there.
That makes a really strong argument for the idea of not really getting angry at the way things are to some extent. Like, we just move along at the pace we can. And education seems to be like the greatest tool for helping people get past a lot of these.
Well, and that's why it's so important for us to, you know, be doing this and doing a radio show and the parades and you know, any other sorts of outreach events, just to help get out there in the community and inform people of some of these issues, and maybe get one or two of them to care and start thinking about it and making a difference.
It's almost like outreach for a church in some ways. We're trying to bring people to the good word of secularism.
It is. I definitely see that point. It's just, I think it's more yearning towards a goal of equality than it is trying to worship something that isn't there.
I agree.
Focusing.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Andrew, did you, I can't remember, did you grow up religious?
Yes, I did.
Would you say your life is better now than it was before?
Yes, I would.
And like, by what degree?
It's kind of immeasurable in my case, because the way I look at things now compared to the way I was raised to look at things, I would like it's completely different.
But you would say your life is better?
Yes.
General,
yes, it is.
Happier person?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I would have to agree with you. My life is exponentially better than it was before. I can't imagine ever going back. I can't believe I lived that way for so long. Just in ways that are too numerable to list. So yeah, I think it's worthy of getting the word out there, because I feel like it would be that way for most people who got out of it. Superstition or religion in general.
I don't know. I almost feel sometimes it's because of me being such a geeky gamer of sorts. It's kind of humbling for me to think about the way that I thought or used to feel when I was growing up. Back when I was at least moderately religious, and I'm trying to compare my thought patterns between now and then. It's like trying to explain 3D graphics to somebody who has a 1985 arcade game and comparing that to the Xbox One. It's hard to have a conversation because the difference is so huge.
Yeah, it is. It is so huge.
Yep.
And a lot of it for me, when I have these conversations, comes down to one real issue, and that is, if you believe that we were created, then we're not going to have a lot in common. Like you have to make a lot of like presumptions in the things that you talk about that have to do with humankind and us living together, philosophy, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And if that's like where we differ, then we're not going to get very far. So I don't really push the subject. I can still have a good time, but it's not going to get into any topics that are like, I can't have an honest argument or discussion about something we disagree on in most cases because of that divide. Mainly because I don't respect that opinion very much, I guess. So
yeah. I don't know. I guess it just kind of depends on how much those people are actually willing to have a discussion. Like, I don't know. Normally, I guess I just get caught in a trap where one side or the other insists on talking and not listening, I guess. And that's more preaching, and I try not to preach, but even I get caught in that trap sometimes.
Well, when you think you know what if you think you know something and everybody else is wrong, then yeah, it's easy to get preachy. So I guess it would come on all sides, would be my opinion on that.
Yeah.
Not a very good preacher, though, I don't think. So I still get caught up in the idea that there's just no way to know. I was so convinced before. Like now I just don't trust myself at all in a lot of ways.
How did you let me down, brain?
I find it all very funny now.
Well, I don't know. I feel the same way when I go about trying to look at those optical illusions.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you eyes deceive me?
Right. That one I saw on Facebook here recently. It's like a mirror, and you look at these objects in the mirror, and they look one shape. But then if you look at the shape directly on, it has a totally different look to it. Mm-hmm. So, you're just deceiving yourself. And if you can deceive yourself with something as simple as just the reflection of something off a mirror, like how much more complex do those deceptions get over time? And then another thing too that I still I'm trying to wrap my head around entirely is like, I remember, learning about bias growing up and being biased, and it generally had to do with like gender or racism or something like that. But I never really understood how much a bias was hardwired into us chemically. Like even if you understand the bias and know the bias, you are still just as influenced by it as before you knew about it. With things like racism, once you learn the facts, you can kind of just let it go for the most part. Most of your racist ideas, if you recognize them, you just let them go. Whereas these chemically based biases are so part of our makeup that dealing with them is like a full-time basis. They just keep catching you off guard perpetually. Suppose maybe you get better over time, but I don't know. That's been my experience.
Yeah, that's why it's been difficult for me to mentally insert so many blocks and like checkpoints for all of my thoughts, because everything that I try to think about and go to say, I have to pass through at least 5 different checkpoints, because I know that there's so many things in my psyche that are hardwired from youth that I've been trying to unlearn and rewire, and I'll catch myself going back to those stupid old ways and saying it and acting like it, and yet I'm having all these recent controls put in place to try to modify my thoughts and my behavior to another way. Even dealing with snakes, sometimes I'll catch myself saying the snake is poisonous. I'm just like, why did I say that? That's terrible. I'm like the #1 preacher about venomous versus poisonous snakes. I'm catching myself saying this stupid thing. What the heck is wrong with me?
Wow.
But yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to change.
Yeah, it sure is, isn't it? It's annoying. God, it's annoying right now. I really want to work out and get myself in shape, and I'm having just the hardest time. I hate it. I'm like,
It's true.
how can I hate it so much when I know it's exactly what I need?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a weird position to be in, to be right in the middle of these two powers. And, I guess you just have to like willpower your way through it. And I never grew up learning much willpower. So it's a lot of my behavior was just enforced by circumstances, and I wasn't pushed very hard just with my upbringing. So learning how to do it yourself and counteracting those things is a skill that takes a heck of a lot of work. In fact, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. With the most reward, I would assume, on the other end. But to do something continually outside of this weird physical and mental kinks in your brain that stop you from doing what you know you should, boy, it's a wild ride watching it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's like that for most everybody.
I don't know. My brain works a little differently, I guess. I don't know. It's a little here, there, and everywhere, and I just kind of randomly decide to do one thing or another, I guess. I don't know. I don't have as much issue with willpower as I do prioritization, I guess. I'm sitting here and I'm trying to prioritize everything, and getting nothing done.
That's hilarious. So prioritizing is your highest priority.
Yes.
It never gets done because there's an infinite amount of things to do.
Oh gosh, like just today, had another FreeThought member message me on Facebook, and he's like, "Hey, you gonna have those pictures posted anytime soon from the picnic?" And I'm like, "It's on my list. I'll get there.
I'm still prioritizing it.
I'll try to reprioritize it to the top 10 things."
Right.
Oh goodness.
That's funny. What about you, Andrew? You find it? I find it more difficult to do some of this stuff with children around. Do you find that to be the case?
Yeah, just like over the summer when my boys were home from school, and I basically got nothing done.
Yeah, it's amazing how little you can get done.
Yeah, I just find myself just sitting down with them watching TV or playing with them. I don't know. I guess spending time with my children is something I want to do, but I can't. I couldn't work on the house. I couldn't, work on my van, which needs to be repainted.
Right.
And it was kind of just, I don't know, doldrums all summer long. And now that they're back in school, I'm working on the house. I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. But I don't have time for other projects that I wanted to get to. So, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's rough. We should move on to another topic.
Yeah.
Well,
what about ITT Tech closing? Anybody hear about that?
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking for jobs recently, and I heard news that they were stopped. They weren't accepting new students, and then I saw a job posting for ITT, and I was like, okay, I wonder if that's any good. And then, like 5 minutes later, I was looking at news articles and saying they shut down.
Yep.
I was like,
Oh, really?
Okay, what is going on there? Because they laid off 8,000 employees. They closed almost all their sites. They have this program for the current students that are enrolled to get their debts canceled. Any debts that they've taken out for the current semester canceled.
How's that going to work?
If they have federally funded loans,
Oh, okay.
there's a program they could access to get them canceled if the school closes.
What about people who have private loans?
That they're gonna have to deal with them themselves.
Man, how pissed would you be? Oh, I'd be so pissed because you can't file bankruptcy.
You can get a refund from the school. I'm assuming that's what they're gonna end up doing. Either they're just gonna give refunds, or they could be sued for refunds, and then they just pay their banks back. Like, just pay the bank back the loan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a real shame. Boy, I would hate to have gone to school for however long, or have gone there at all. I guess at that point, and then had a degree from them, and then have this happen. That's heartbreaking.
That's my my best friend. He graduated from ITT. I want to say 10 years ago or so. And yeah, he's now thinking that his degree's worth nothing. And he's thinking that he almost feels like he needs a refund for that if his degree's not going to be worth anything.
Yeah, I can see some class action suits coming up soon.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see a lot of lawsuits. That company's gone. I don't see how they're ever going to come back from this. Either way, a lot of people are going to get screwed.
It's interesting just looking at the trend that triggered this whole thing.
Which was?
You know, the federal government actually locking down on which institutions have the right to disperse federal funds for loans.
I bet you that's got a lot of other schools shaking in their boots. I doubt ITT stood alone.
Oh no, they were just one of the basically diploma mills that did that kind of thing.
Yep.
Wow. Do you plan on sending your kids to college, Andrew? Or what are your views on that?
It's up to them, really.
Yeah.
Because I personally don't think I got anything out of college. That might just be the college I went to or what I did there. But I know some colleges can be beneficial, but for the most part, anymore it's just self-study, at least in my field.
What was your field?
IT, technology, computers, that kind of stuff. It's a lot of it's just hands-on, and you just learn as you go and read books, look up solutions on Google.
Yeah,
that's basically it.
I would think in your case, though, Christopher, college probably was very handy for you.
Yeah, and it's just now starting to get to the point where the IT portion is becoming useful. I mean, granted, I only took 2 classes last semester, and I'm taking 2 classes this semester. But I'm just now getting to the point in one of my classes I'm actually really starting to learn something important. Everything else has been stuff that I already knew predominantly. So I can definitely see what Andrew's getting at, as far as a lot of this being kind of a waste of time, because I'm feeling it. But I mean, it's starting to help me understand programming, and that's really what my weak spot's been. Because I have read books, I have gone online, and it's just people are terrible about trying to teach this stuff, and it boggles my mind as to why they're so terrible. As far as trying to teach some of these core concepts in mobile app development and game design, and it's just, my gosh, I can already feel like I'm starting to understand it.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, so for IT, I absolutely understand. It seems to be very difficult to feel like you're getting anywhere doing that stuff in college. But as far as biology, I mean, there's no other way to go about it with the sciences that actually require lab time and research. You know, there's no way to go about it, which is why I almost laugh at people who sit there and think that they know anything about biology when they've never stepped foot into a lab their entire life.
Right.
Well, and that's the other thing I wanted to get into is it's kind of up to my kids as far as what they want to do, because if they want to go into a science field, then there's really no other way for them to learn these things except for getting their hands on stuff in a lab, doing the work, learning the stuff. And so that for that, college is useful. But for practical and technical degrees, it's not really practical to go to college.
Yeah, I would agree. I
mean, if you want to learn a trade, go into a trade school.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's the way I look at IT. It's a trade that I knew a lot about before I even went to school for it, and I just kind of didn't learn anything.
Well, I mean, there's some trades that I like, being a doctor, for instance.
Well, I mean, again, different fields require different things, so it's really up to what they want to go into.
Yeah, that's the way I feel too. I try to set some money aside, I guess, for them, but I feel like no matter what I do, it's never going to be enough. Well, as expensive as it is.
Even with what Uriah's trying to do, I mean, she's trying to go into aviation mechanic technician or something like that, and I mean, she doesn't have to go to a university for that. She can go to Ivy Tech Community College here in town. Obviously, the obvious benefit is that she gets half of her classes paid for or whatever, just because I'm a teacher, and so she gets some of those classes taken for free. But other than that, I mean, that's a nice thing about the community college, is that they are, basically a trade school in some ways to teach some of these trades, and that's excellent. And she's getting training that she could never get by going anywhere else in the state other than maybe Purdue. But I really don't think any other place in the state has an appreciable aviation program.
That's interesting. That's a really unique skill. I don't run into many people know how to do that, but it must be common enough that they need to train people to do it at community colleges. Well,
it's interesting. I actually just saw a job posting here at the Air National Guard base in town, and they had posted positions for 3 aviation mechanics that they needed, just to work on the A-10s and other aircraft that come out of the base here.
Yeah. Did anybody go to the air show?
I wasn't able to.
I wanted to go, but considering you had to park downtown and be shuttled there, that was kind of a deal breaker for me.
And there's security too. Like you got to pass security. I doubt it was all that intense, but still, I wanted to bring my kids, which are 6 and 3, and I was like, I have no idea how long it's going to take to even get to the air show, let alone how long it's going to take to get back. And having a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, who knows what
was it, like a 20-minute bus ride? Is that what they said?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, they said 20 minutes depending on traffic. But the thing is, though, downtown or Fort Wayne also had be a tourist in your own city that same weekend. So downtown was a nightmare.
Was it?
Especially for parking. I just avoided it like the plague. You know, because I really wanted to go and take the boys to the air show, because I remember going to air shows when I was about their age, because I grew up on an air base.
Right.
My dad was in the Air Force, and so we every year they had an air show, and we went, and I loved it. I love seeing the airplanes walking through. I remember the greatest thing that I remember was walking through a C-5 Galaxy, just this massive cargo plane. You could just they put the tail ramp down, nose cone up, and you just walk right through and just see this massive cavernous plane. It's like, this thing flies?
Yeah. You ever seen the Blue Angels? Like, all that stuff really sticks with you when you're a kid.
The Thunderbirds? Oh, man.
Yeah, Thunderbirds, yeah.
Yeah, that was impressive as a little kid.
Yes, definitely. Watching people jump out of planes. Yeah, it was a good time. The 3-year-old, too much. And then there was like some security stuff too, where they were saying you can't bring a backpack, can't bring a bunch of other stuff. I'm like, how am I supposed to take care of kids?
Exactly.
Like, just carry a wad of stuff in my hands? Like, that's not going to work. So, yeah, I bowed out of that one. Fort Wayne downtown is really doing awesome, though.
Yeah, they've been having this whole downtown revival thing going on for a few years now, and it seems to be doing pretty well.
They got all those condos they're building right next to Parkview Field.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome. I wish I would have owned one of those houses. There's probably people living in those houses like, oh, my house is worth nothing. And then like 2 years down the road, like people are making them offers for it.
Yeah. That's why it's funny that my old boss, Rudy, owns 4 of those properties over there.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I haven't really, my mind has not really been thinking about a lot of this free thought stuff, really. I mean, I love the group and all that, but I just, anything that has to do with religion and the Bible, it all just seems so dumb to me. It's not even worth talking about. Like, it's like talking about that piece of dust over there in the corner.
Right.
Like, I just don't think about it that much anymore. Or superstition. It's just not really a relevant part of my life.
I did have the pleasure of watching God's Not Dead 2.
That was a pleasure. That good, huh?
Yeah. It was worse than I anticipated. I actually, honestly, I actually liked the first one for about the first half of the movie. It was actually a quality movie, I thought. The second one was just wow. That was a crap house of nothing. It was just
of nothing.
Of nothing. I try to find some value in what they were trying to do. I couldn't get there. It was just a whole lot of stuff that was taken completely out of left field. Extreme scenarios that would never happen in the world. And it was just wow. Just wow. I can't get over it. It scarred me.
You watched the whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Oh my.
So which theater did you go to?
Oh, no. I watched this at home. I did not pay for the
I just got a picture of you going to the theater with some popcorn and a big gulp and like, I'll take one ticket for God Is Not Dead 2, please.
They ask, are you sure?
Are you sure that's the movie you want to watch? Yes, please, give it to me. I hate myself. I want to torture myself.
No, because I would have sat there in the audience and sniped everyone's phone at the end of the movie when they tried to bring it up and text a friend that God is not dead. Oh my gosh. That's how I knew that movie even came out. You know that? When the first one came out, I got a text from one of my old friends from high school and it said, God's not dead. And I'm like, what the hell is this guy texting me for? And why is he saying that of all things?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. And it wasn't until like 6 months later I watched the movie and I'm like, that moron. What the heck did he think sending me that crap?
Almost he had you. Almost.
Oh my gosh.
Almost you were turned back to God. Yeah, you're right. God isn't dead. I have not done myself the disservice of watching that movie. Either one of them, and I don't plan on it.
Just listen to the God Awful Movie podcast. They've covered both of those movies.
I did go and watch Sausage Party though.
Ah. With your family?
With my wife.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Have you seen it? Who has seen it?
I've seen it, yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is over the top. There are people left the theater in the middle of the movie.
Oh, really?
Obviously they were, believers, and the movie makes such a bold mockery of religion.
Yeah, it really does.
It's unbelievable. The whole movie's about it. You have to watch it at some point in time, Andrew.
Okay.
It's way, way over the top, and it's funny, and just it's an anti-theist movie. Yeah, it's definitely, if you're a Christian and you go and watch that movie, it's hard. I cannot imagine you not squirming while you're in your chair and getting pissed. But do you know what it's about?
No.
Basically, it's just this grocery store of food, and then all the food is personified.
Oh, I have heard about that. Okay.
Yeah. But they're all dreaming about the great beyond, which is being selected by the human gods and being taken to a place where, it'll be rapture forever for the food, and they'll be happy everywhere. And, this hot dog will finally get to enter this bun. And, there's all kinds of sexual
but of course
innuendo built into that. So, they believe in this happily ever after, and, everybody's all about it, and nobody doubts it, or if you do doubt it, you're extremely ostracized. And it's about this food that gets taken out, and then somehow it's able to come back into the store, and they're trying to tell everybody what's really going on out there, that it's all BS. You're going to be eaten and shredded. It's this horrible thing. You don't want to be out there. And then you find out that this story was invented by, I don't want to ruin the movie. Shoot.
Yeah. That's good.
It's just very good, along with Seth Rogen comedy.
Yeah.
So highly recommended if you get a chance.
I definitely felt it was much more explicitly anti-theist than some people have said about what was that, Narnia. I think some people were kind of highlighting some of the religious undertones in that, and I really didn't see or feel that when I was watching the movie, but afterwards I could kind of feel what they were getting at. Sausage Party is very in your face about it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Very in your face. It's hard to miss. So.
Oh yeah, you can't miss it. If you miss it, then there's something wrong with you.
But no, that's why, honestly, when I was at the picnic that I still have to upload pictures for, the picnic, I was talking with Chris, the movie guy, about doing Sausage Party for the FreeThought movie night.
That's a great
and
idea.
if he had done it with his movie club, and he said he did do it with the movie club, that people really liked it. So that was one of the things I brought up for at least the more crude members of FreeThought that might be able to appreciate it more.
So that's what I like about FreeThought. Just having a group that I can go to. It's like D, what you said about anything related to church wise and religion. You just kind of meh. I like the idea of having a group. I miss the community of church, I guess, even though I never felt part of it. So it's just nice to have a community of people, like-minded people out there.
No, I agree with you.
By the way, that was just a hidden ad for FreeThought Fort Wayne.
I like it too. Mainly, one of the things that I really like about it is how much I still disagree with people in the group.
Oh yeah, the intellectual diversity is amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely not all believing the exact same thing. There's still a lot of room to argue and have good discussions and also agree. But I really enjoy that. It's the only place I can find that. I have been able to find anything like that, where one can have an actual argument about something and not take it personally.
Yeah, I haven't seen any bloody noses at all, so that's always a plus. Yeah.
Agreed. Yes. Except I did get a bloody nose there once, but that was just an allergy thing.
Oh, jeez. No, I don't know. I keep dreaming about the day that we can actually have a building to call our own, so to speak. Um, it's just, I literally dream about it at least once a week.
Really?
The need for a group like this to have a building where they can do the things that they want to do. That way you can have that even larger sense of community, sense of belonging, and taking care of something that's yours. I mean, just going up north to Michigan for Roy's talk, Roy Speckart, that was awesome seeing that particular humanist group at least have a partial stake in this giant Jewish temple. This place was beautiful. They took great care of it. They had all these materials around and everything. It was awesome to see that and see what can be done with a space that's your own. And it's just, I yearn for the day that humanists can do that on a more global scale instead of just regional, basically. So,
are there like humanist churches, chapels, buildings out there anywhere? Is any like group big enough to?
Well,
that's the thing. Like
in
they
Austin,
only had
they have the atheist community of Austin, Texas. They have a library, and they do meetings, and they produce radio podcasts there, TV shows there. They have a studio, and so
Wow.
Yeah, they have that, and I think there's a couple other places around the country that have it. That have similar setups. At least a building.
I like the library concept. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
School of human knowledge, place to meet, or a pool of human knowledge.
Yeah.
Actually, having a pool there might not hurt either. That's a good idea.
Especially with Nipplegate taking hold and
Jesus.
Just call it the Humanist Spa and Pool Lounge. You think that?
I like where we're going with that. We're going to do a library, but this guy came and had a much better idea. We named it after him, the Christopher Rex Humanist Pool and Spa. I like to trade in the markets, and I'm not very good at it. I mean, I have my winners and losers. I wouldn't say that I've done anything really great with it, but you can make so much money in the markets really quickly if you get lucky, or you're really disciplined, or find an edge, or whatever. But I've always had this dream of like being able to just amass like millions of dollars, just pull money out of the market at will.
Yep.
Just giving it away, all these good causes. That'll never happen, but it's a dream.
It's true. It is important to dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I always think that's one of the, just to go on a side topic here, I think it's always something that I find very frustrating when people are trying to talk about how unique and special the human race is. And how when we look at other animals, I mean, even just within our closest cousins, the primates, we know that they dream when they sleep. So dreaming is not inherently a unique thing to humans. It's not. It's very important for a number of organisms to dream. And at least, even if they're not dreaming, to at least have some sort of downtime to recover, to consolidate memory, and do these other functions. It's very important for a more complex brain to do. And just, I don't know, I get kind of frustrated sometimes hearing about how special the human race is when we're not much more advanced than anything else.
I agree with you. I'm always perplexed at how special individuals think they are, myself included. And as a species, I can see that too. And, well, I mean, religion, I think, at least Christian religion or the Abrahamic religions enforce that, if not the actual cause of it. I don't know. But if the whole universe was built for humans, it's hard not to be pretty arrogant about yourself.
Well, have you seen The Shape of a Banana?
Yes, I have.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it just, oh my gosh. I can't stand that argument. It really frustrates me to no end.
What is
the fact that a banana is perfectly shaped for the human hand?
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
really?
the banana that we've modified over millennia, and
Yeah.
it's not even like the strain of banana that is now. It only has existed for what, 60, 70 years.
Yeah, that's about right.
I've heard this
Yeah.
argument before, and one of the best answers I've heard to it is, I think it was Ricky Gervais. Is that how you pronounce his word? He was
Gervais?
Gervais, yeah. Anyway, he was talking about like a puddle in the ground, a puddle on the ground. You could say, wow, look how perfectly that water is formed to fit into that hole in the ground. It's like it was created to be there. Or that's just the natural state of water.
Right.
And that is what science has done for us, right?
Pretty much.
Yep.
But you can do that on and on. I mean, the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere, the rotation of the Earth, or the orbit of the Earth around the sun, its spin, its magnetic pull. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And
But if the Earth were like 3 inches closer to the sun, we would burn up, or if it's 3 inches more farther away from the sun, we'd freeze.
Right.
That's truth. Except it's not.
We're actually moving further and further away from the sun at a rate that's a little greater than that, but
Right. Not to mention the orbit's elliptical anyway, so at any given time during the year, you're either closer or farther away from the sun.
yeah.
yeah, it goes on and on. It's easy to come up with the conclusion of being created when you have that simple little glitch in your thinking.
Yeah.
But
Well-
the other way is just as justified, even though it seems ridiculous at first. But that's the beauty of science and what we've discovered, the time that we're living in. It's not that absurd anymore.
So we have the facts and the evidence to support it.
Yeah.
And I just realized we ended up getting to space.
Of course
Every
we-
time. Every time. I don't know. I think that was kind of my fault subconsciously because I had a traumatizing. No, I guess I wouldn't call it traumatizing. It was actually a little enlightening for me. Experience last week. I got to be a guest on the show, the radio show that comes on right before mine. Actually, comes on every Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m. It was called the Advanced Archaeology Review. I got to serve as a guest on that show because I saw the guest that they were having, and I thought it might be very interesting to talk to this person. As this person is an avid fan of the show Ancient Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And I thought it was kind of limited to that extent. But then I sat in on the show and realized that the host for the show was also into that exact same thing.
Yeah.
And so it digressed into a biological rant at some point. And that was where I had two people who are not anything. They're not archaeologists, but they're trying to talk about archaeology. And they're trying to tell me about biology. And I started getting a little aggravated because they were trying to assert to me that there is no possible way that humans could evolve on their own on this planet, that there was no possible way that the common dog that we use as pets could have possibly evolved from wolves, and that there's no possible way that all the crops that we currently have and use could have been created by humans through artificial selection with plant fields, by planting fields.
So, how do they think they came about? Lizard people?
Aliens coming down.
Do they read too much David Icke?
Yeah, aliens coming down and genetically modifying everything gave us everything that we have, because we can't possibly do any of it on our own or through the natural process of evolution.
Oh, man. I just feel sorry for people like that. I just feel so sorry for people like that.
There's just a lot of them.
Yeah.
Well, these ancient alien shows, I've seen one or two of them. Like, they do a compelling job of convincing people about this kind of stuff, and they just latch onto it.
Yeah. And the thing kills me is that the whole time these guys are sitting here talking about how they go over to experts and consult the experts. They consult an actual archaeologist, or they consult an actual mineralogist or a metallurgist, to actually look at some of the rock concentrations and the chemical concentrations in those rocks, and try to look at some of the metals and how they were formed and such. And they admit that they go to some of these experts as well and see what they have to say and how they're evaluating the situation when it comes to like pyramids or ancient artifacts and tools. But then I'm sitting off here to the side as an expert biologist trying to tell them things, and they're not listening to me. So on the one hand, they say that they consult experts, but on the other hand, they're not listening to the experts. So
just bias is hard at work.
Yeah, I can sympathize with how you feel. I have people come to me sometimes with computer problems that I know how to fix, but they don't want to listen to me.
Right.
They're like, no, it's probably this. No, I'm pretty sure it's this. It definitely is this. Nope. No, whatever. So I can sympathize on that level.
Yeah.
You gotta love it though. It's so entertaining to watch. It's entertaining to be a part of too. Like, I don't get around people like that where I actually get in conversations where somebody believes in something truly ridiculous. I just don't get that opportunity anymore. And I totally could. Like, I could get in a conversation with somebody who's religious, but I remember doing that. But when you guys tell me these stories, I miss it, because it's really just extremely entertaining to watch it happen right in front of you. Is it not?
Well, I guess the reason why I brought up my particular example here was because I see the same thing in religion. I see a number of religious people consult experts, but only those experts that agree with the same thing that they're saying, right? So they'll consult an expert who can carbon date the age of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but using carbon dating, they won't treat any other evidence as valid, showing that the Earth is,
right,
older than 6,000 years.
Right.
Well, they do they do the same thing with their holy texts. They pick and choose what they want to believe in. So why not with everything else?
Well, we do,
and that's why I constantly tell them, I'm like, you can't pick and choose science. Science is a process, and you cannot pick and choose the results.
Right.
So if you believe in the law of gravity, then you have to believe in the theory of evolution, because the same science produced both of them. And then they're like, well, a theory is just a theory. It's not a fact. I'm like, then you don't understand what a theory is. A theory is not one thing. A theory explains thousands of things and explains how those things work. A law describes exactly how they work.
Right.
Whereas a fact is a single tiny bit of a law or a theory. So it's, interesting.
That is all the time we have for you this week. This has been the Hoosier Humanist Hour. Be sure to check out FreeThought Fort Wayne on Facebook and on meetup.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope your days are filled with logic, reasoning, and the eternal quest for knowledge.